Hey guys, welcome back to Results Junkies podcast. Today we're talking about Paul sitting on his rightful throne. We're talking about a third device which may accompany him to his throne. And if we have time, we'll talk a little bit about Fortnite being back on the Apple App Store. Mr. Singh, I'm happy we're able to get through that without any further laughs, but how the heck are you?
I'm great. I'm a little jet lagged. I just got back from Salt Lake City last night, or actually this morning, nice and bright-eyed at 1:30 in the morning. So that was nice. I'm good. I am
I have
definitely
I
not
have no
firing on all
sympathy.
cylinders, though, I will tell you.
I have no sympathy for you whatsoever. As I was talking with somebody just yesterday, so far this calendar year, here we are in May. I have flown 72,000 miles so far this year. So your little jaunt to
Ooh,
Salt Lake City
fighting for
doesn't.
your
Yeah.
1K. Okay, all right, all right.
The 1K is already in the rearview mirror, my friend. That's been
Oh,
logged
okay.
up. Yeah, sadly.
Oh, okay, man. Not even like a humble brag, just a brag.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, like, United dropped a couple of negative changes this morning quietly. We talked about them on my other podcast this morning, but no more instant upgrades on some economy fares for 1K members, and
I,
the
I,
excursionist perk
I,
is going away too.
I read about this actually, and
Yeah,
no more of those dream catcher fairs or whatever they call those things.
excursionist perks.
Excursionist, whatever. It's still just as bad of a word. So,
Yeah,
excursionist.
it is just as bad a word. I would say that. Yes. All right, a little bit of
I love
housekeeping.
it.
Show at resultsjunkies.com is how you find us. He is at Paul Singh on all the social media channels. I am at Pizza in Motion. And it's time, Paul. It is time for you
Oh,
to sit on your throne.
oh well. Before we get there, a little hint, maybe sneak peek for listeners to what's the word? To potentially join our little circus. Is that you and I have a portfolio company that is now raising a new round, led by a friend of ours, and I will be putting together an AngelList syndicate here, drafting it up later today, hopefully. So maybe that little hint will we'll have to like tie that together in a future episode here. But
Yes.
you will all have a chance to join the circus and watch Ed as he um, potentially sits on this board, and I will somehow observe him, and maybe we'll get the LPs of the syndicate to send me a bad joke or a funny meme about Ed for every board meeting. It'd be great.
As the saying goes, not my circus, not my monkeys, except now both of those things are true. This will
Correct.
be your circus, and I may in fact be one of your monkeys.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
All right. Well, after that brief segue, I can't help but bring us to what has to be the most humorous story of the year, even exceeding the joy and I relished in talking about the end of an era when we talked about Microsoft Teams and apps gone by. Here we are, sir, talking about the AI toilet startup Throne.
Um, I think our pre-show probably went a little too long because of all the bad jokes, and I wish we had recorded most of them. But yeah, I mean, look, these guys raised $4 million. That's great. They jammed AI into the headline somehow, so clearly their valuation is probably super high. And now we're sticking cameras with 3M tape to our toilets. Uh, I mean, this is a brave new world we're in. I would just like my contacts to sync between my phone and my laptop, but people are putting cameras on my toilet now. So,
And,
however,
using AI to talk about your
yeah,
colon health.
that's right. That's right. That's right. But, that being said, though, this is probably the only company in the world that can say with a straight face that their total addressable market is every human being on the planet.
Yeah.
So, but now that being said, though, there is one thing I do think is very interesting about this, just from like a potential disruption standpoint.
Mhm.
If you think about the major toilet manufacturers, the people, the companies that make the actual ceramic toilet that we install in our homes all around the world, very undifferentiated business, right? I mean,
Sure.
it's a toilet. It's effectively a toilet. They try to differentiate on design and stuff like that. It'll be interesting to see what happens here over the next couple of years. It's certainly possible this flames out. I'm not going to say anything more there. If you get my drift, but it's also possible that you know we'll think about the parallels here. There's a chance that one of those major manufacturers could kind of go down the path of like somebody like Walmart, where they create their own labs division to as essentially like their corporate development to buy a technology company like this and maybe secure their own future. But there's also a chance it goes the other way, where a company like Throne potentially buys one of them. And that before anybody says like, "Well, that sounds crazy," let's not forget Dollar Shave Club bought the entire factory that they were buying their blades from,
Right.
and effectively also blocked out their competitors from using that factory as well. So it'd be interesting to see how it goes. But have you put in your pre-order for your toilet cam?
I have not. I mean, and as you noted, the jokes do pretty much make themselves,
They
including
come right out. It's
they
so great.
they do. I mean, just the thought of $4 million in funding going down the drain is inspiration enough. I think probably one of the funnier moments in this article, which, as you said, raising $4 million. Congratulations to these folks for doing it. It's a tough time to raise money.
That's
It
right.
said so their fundraising led them to a surreal moment in Austin with one of their Austin contacts as they stood outside Lance Armstrong's bathroom door after having installed a prototype waiting for his verdict. Spoiler alert: Lance Armstrong did invest, but I do have to admit the you know the cycle of pitching this product to investors would be an interesting one, because you've really only got two choices. You could do a video call, or you could do it in person. And
Yeah.
I think I'd probably lean video call versus in person.
I mean, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how I would keep a straight face trying to meet with this one. Hey, but listen, all joking aside for about 30 seconds, hey, if this works, this could be great. Yeah, they got like AI and all these buzzwords stuffed into the title and all these things. It's great, but at the end of the day, there are. I mean, look, I kind of I don't know a lot about healthcare, but I'm kind of in it now, and
Right.
you know, gastroenterology got anyway. That whole side of medicine is pretty massive.
Yeah.
And so, the possible patient benefits are pretty neat. It'll be interesting to see what the pricing looks like on this, and how accessible they can make it. But yeah, okay, that's about as serious as I'm going to get about it. I'll leave it at that.
I'll get serious for a hot minute and say, like, I do think that you could do this in like you could have this in your doctor's office, for example. You don't necessarily have to have it in your home. And so I absolutely do think there's a capability here. To your point on the AI piece, it's funny. I would actually, I mean, we don't know a lot about the company, obviously, but I would actually say this could be a good use of AI, in that it's sort of like the thing we talked about with like snake venom and trying to come up with the perfect antidote. It's, I mean, there are likely conditions in, your waste product that aren't being analyzed because it's hard to do that. So if you're able to create a database of what this stuff looks like, that's not something that's going to get billions of dollars in research, but very quickly you could gain critical mass if you're able to aggregate all the images and come up with diagnoses. So,
Okay, all right, but okay. Just imagine. I hope these guys never get hacked. But can you imagine? Can you imagine what happens? I feel like if I was the CEO of this company, I would just walk around all day and just say secure your shit, and and be 90% serious about it. But yeah, well, people think the whole Ashley Madison leak, a decade ago was embarrassing. Wait till this happens.
oh
Come
my
on,
God.
all these like hacker types. They want the embarrassing info. This Throne needs to like really level up its security. This is gonna be it's gonna be a honeypot for sure.
Just, just stop. Uh,
I hope the push alert says Twitter's full.
Jeremiah will never have used as many beeps in an episode as he has in this one. That's for sure.
I just want to point out you suggested this article. Okay, so you knew what you were getting into.
I
I've
did know
been
what I was
set
getting.
up.
I did know what I was getting myself into. I foolishly thought that we would be able to maintain a little bit more composure than we have with the topic.
Oh, no. I'm 44 going on 6, man.
I will say it does show that we will go to unbelievable lengths to make sure that we are hitting on all of the key information dumps that there are in the travel in the tech space.
You're not right. You're not right, pizza.
I am not right. There is no question about it. Oh my gosh. Well, I don't want to waste any more of your time, so we're gonna we're gonna move into a discussion about what you termed in the pre-show as the what could potentially be the most expensive acquihire in the world, which is Sam Altman acquiring Jony Ive's AI company and the whispers of a third device that people will carry around that will be almost as important as their top two devices, which would be their laptop and their phone. And I'd be lying if I said that this doesn't kind of scare the crap out of me. There it is again, because I just don't want a third device. Mr. Singh, where's your head on this?
I
You,
You're a capitalist and a stand-up comedian. I love it.
you're gonna have to push through it.
All right, let me bear down here. Can you imagine a board meeting? Can you imagine a board meeting? If the seats aren't toilets, they've missed such a huge opportunity. Oh God, that's some shit. Okay. So
Good.
90% of this episode is gonna be people listening to us laugh. And I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Oh, I'll take the over.
Okay, so uh all right. Startup optimist me is like, okay, whatever it is they're gonna do, they got big vision and shoot for the moon or shoot for the stars, and maybe you'll hit the roof. That's great, aim big. Consumer me is like, what are you talking about? Because I already got three devices. I got my MacBook Pro, I got my iPhone, I got my AirPods. Not only one AirPod, I got two AirPods because I use them so often all day. And the idea of like they haven't said much, right? But in that article, when they kind of hint at it, this third device that you can put out there, the cynic in me is like, what are you talking about? It'll be my fifth device. And then sort of then the other side of it is like, why does it have to be a separate device? Why wouldn't it just be baked into my phone or into these AirPods or something like that? So I don't know. Like again, I want to keep an open mind. Who knows? It'll be super cool. But at the same time, the idea of just one more thing, in my case, a sixth item in my pocket, does not feel great. But hey, when your company's valued at 300 billion, 400 billion dollars already, what's a $6.5 billion? This is kind of like, by the way, from a scale standpoint, this is very similar to like what Facebook and Instagram did. When Facebook bought Instagram for like $1 billion at the time, the number became the headline because it was so massive. But
Yeah.
but the bet actually turned out, and it worked out really, really great. And as a percentage of Facebook's valuation at the time, it was really a rounding error. Well, it was just small, and that's kind of what's going on here. But yeah, it's hard not to let the jokes fly a little bit on this one too. It's there's not a whole lot of meat here. I mean, I wish I could like put a little team together and then essentially get a $6.5 billion valuation. That'd be nice.
Well, look, I mean,
So,
nobody's made money betting against Jony Ive. I mean, so I guess I'll start with that, and I'm certainly not in any position to say that I'm smarter than him on any of these issues. But I really do struggle with this one as well, and maybe I'm too much at the 10,000 foot level on this. Devices inherently age quickly in today's world. I mean, we see some folks skipping iPhone cycles, but chip production and feature sets and all that stuff. I mean, it changes pretty rapidly. Now, the models that are out there for AI, I mean, certainly those update quickly. And if this device needed to update to a new version of ChatGPT, certainly that wouldn't be hard to do. But I mean, I think there's a piece in this article that I think inherently talks about what part of their problem is, which is they're keeping things really quiet because they want to get as close to launch with the device so nobody else can rip it off. I'm just I'm really struggling to come up with the thing that could be so unique about their device that somebody else couldn't do the same thing or similar enough. And so like whenever you talk about tooling and device manufacturing, I mean, look, to some degree, Apple has tooling costs with every model of the iPhone, but there's lots of inherent learned data and certain tooling pieces that don't get redone for every version, and it makes it more affordable for them to make the next generation of their product. Here, you're talking about tooling from scratch.
Well, so here's the thing though. If you think about it, most of the compute is going to be in the cloud. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, there might be a little bit of compute on this thing itself,
Right.
but the vast majority of that compute is going to be up in the cloud somewhere. So just to oversimplify it just for a moment, it's probably a bunch of sensors, microphone, maybe motion, maybe light, a bunch of sensors packaged up, in the Apple way, and that's nice. I'm sure it'll look pretty. I'm sure it'll probably be a status symbol to start. I'm sure.
Sure.
And then it's probably going to Bluetooth connect over to your phone and use your connection to then go up into the cloud. So
Right.
where I'm going with this is that the moat itself is up in the cloud anyway. That part's hard to discover.
Hmm.
So where the skepticism comes in is really what we're potentially talking about here is packaging up a bunch of sensors in a certain way and acting as if that itself is so secret, so different that you can't talk about it for another year or two. That's wild. Although I guess if we think about corporate governance, I guess we should make the assumption that the board, before they approve this deal, they probably saw prototypes. So if we take that angle that there is a board in place, which we know there is for OpenAI, and that they have the same governance, that every other board has and all that, they've probably seen something and they thought, hey, let's roll the dice. What do you and I know? We're just sitting in our basements talking about stuff.
Speak
But
for yourself. I'm on the first floor.
oh, okay, leveling up, nice. Um, so yeah, I mean, this is just I saw this on coming across my Twitter feed yesterday, and I was like, I don't get it. I mean, it's I don't know. I guess it's also fair to say I was the guy that thought my BlackBerry was just fine until I got my first iPhone. So who
But that
knows?
was but
Maybe I
that was
just need to
device
get jeans with
replacement.
more pockets.
You're right. Yeah, that was device replacement though. That was improving an existing device, and I think,
Yeah,
look, I mean, I think battery technology is going to continue to improve, but I think you and I know that Bluetooth capability for an external device does drain battery. There's also limitations on the number and complexity of Bluetooth devices you can have attached to a phone today. Now, I'm absolutely sure there will be antennae that come out that will allow you to do more of that, but you're asking for a lot of things to align to make this device useful because to your point, I mean, it can't really be truly standalone unless there's a massive market shift on how you sell connectivity. So, like, are they going to supply their own satellites? Because if they're not, then they've either got to build out their own cell network, or they've got to rent somebody else's cell network, or they've got to hope you bring
yeah,
your own access. So there are a number of different pieces there. If this device is going to access the cloud, if it doesn't access the cloud, and it's like the first version of the iPod, so then I got to plug it in at some point, or I got to get on Wi-Fi to orient my device with the latest information. So there's definitely some big ifs here. I think probably the most salient point that you made was, this is $6 billion of a 300 or $400 billion valuation. So, maybe they can afford to make bets like this and really bet hard on the come.
yeah. I mean, it's difficult to understand what a device like this could get that my phone can't already get. I'm talking to you right now, and my phone's right here to the left of my laptop, just like yours probably is. And it's probably got all the same sensors this thing's going to have anyway. So I don't know. Maybe there's something new I don't know about, but I don't. There's something not adding up for me. I would think that OpenAI is so large now that, as you know, we've talked about this with founders all the time. The higher that valuation goes, the less or the fewer potential buyers there, for you to get out if that's one of the goals on that on that venture treadmill. At this point, can anybody other than Apple afford to make a bid for somebody like this? I
Right.
don't. I can't think of very many other companies, particularly very many other companies that have enough cash on the balance sheet to make this even interesting. I don't know. Well, who knows? Maybe that's the long game here. Is that by focusing on design or something like that, they appeal to Apple's corporate development or something like that. But yeah, I mean, just as a consumer, I don't even I don't even have like a mental model of what utility this thing would have to provide for me to make it the fifth device that I carry around all day.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a question there, and look, I mean, like some of these folks are incredibly good at seeing around corners. I'm having trouble seeing around this corner to understand how a device like this could reach ubiquity and sell hundreds of millions of it, because in that case you've got to express a specific level of utility to a user that they want to invest in the device, and then you have to hope that there aren't enough copycat folks to dilute the market enough that you can't, make money off of, hardware. It's, I
Yep.
mean,
Yep.
to make it work with hardware, you got to sell a lot for sure.
Yep. 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 Yeah. Well, I will tell you that is one industry or one angle I'd never really want to explore. The idea of hardware, having to design it. I mean, the gap from prototype to full production is so big, and I've never even done it. I've done it. I've seen it at arm's length in companies we've invested in, but
Yeah.
not something I would ever want to do. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe in 2027, you and I will be sitting here with a third device that like, it just sounds ridiculous now that I say it out loud, but we'll see. Uh, and oh, by the way, I love that it was like, oh, and you can just place the third device on your table. Okay, well, what if you're not in a job where you have a desk? Then where's the utility on this thing? Anyway, we'll see. They've got $400 billion valuations. Neither of us is anywhere near that. So what do we know?
Yeah, there is that. Yeah,
Um,
so let's wrap up with this, the return to the Apple App Store in the US of Fortnite. And while neither one of us is a gamer, this dates back, gosh, I mean, probably almost 5 years now, where Epic effectively forced Apple into this awkward lawsuit about what they could charge on the App Store. For folks who don't know, Apple generally charges up to a 30% commission on anything that you sell on the App Store, and that includes in-app payments. So if you buy skins or arrows or golf balls or, whatever toy is in the app, Apple gets a piece of that as well once you've bought the app, which is an incredibly lucrative business for both Apple and for people like Epic that make Fortnite. So it's returned to the App Store, and what's interesting is, firsthand experience here. My son plays Fortnite, and so I was curious when we downloaded it yesterday, right after it came back out. They're offering Epic is offering a 20% discount in their app if you go to their website to buy their currency, what they call V-Bucks. What's interesting about that is, at least from like wandering around the internet, it seems like Apple's charging them 27%. Now, it's, no proof of that. I haven't found anything in disclosure docs that carves that out. But Apple's still charging them quite a bit of money, and Epic is giving you a pretty substantial discount if you go outside of their ecosystem. When we think about this, it's like, I think the reason why this is interesting for folks to think about is, it took 5 years for Epic to break through this, and it's still not what I would call like ready for prime time. And so just shows how hard it is to get around these entrenched ecosystems. If you're an app developer and you're going to live in an ecosystem where you rely on Apple or Google to make your money.
I've never actually developed these kinds of games, and I guess as a consumer, I guess since I've never felt the direct impact of these fees as a consumer, if I was on the business side of this, absolutely, I could totally I could see why everybody's going to war on this. Why are you going to take 27% or 20% or whatever it is, just for me, like having users on your platform. But from the other side of the equation, as a consumer, like my daughter doesn't play Fortnite anymore as much, or not yet as much, but she, Roblox is like the thing with her friends. And there is this concept of you can purchase through the app, or you can do it through the website. They don't necessarily give you like discounts either way, unless it's like volume.
Right.
But as a consumer, this kind of feels like just a tit for tat, but again, like on the business side, 20%, 27%, that's a lot. So I don't know. I think I do wonder though, at what point does maybe does this become like a regulatory thing, and maybe that's probably not in this administration, but maybe in the future it might be, because anytime like a platform gets so big that it can control everything like this, then it probably is going to start to draw the wrong kind of scrutiny. from agencies and three-letter agencies and stuff like that. So I don't know. I don't know enough to like comment on it or anything like that. As you know, probably I've never really invested in games or apps, and so I really know so little about that world. I think it's so difficult too. Like games, especially like I know this is probably not the angle you want to go on it, but it's like games are so difficult already because it's such a hits driven business. You know, most of these game companies before they become really popular, they've probably had 17 different games in obscurity until one hit. So it's just not something I know a whole lot about.
Well, let me give you an
But
example that might be a little bit more tangential or more topical to what we're talking about here. Think about like task management and note taking and things like that. Like I'll use a product like Evernote as an example. You remember Evernote?
I didn't realize they were still around.
They are, yeah. So and they're in this space of like a lot of these folks, Todoist and other like task based stuff and syncing of notes and all this stuff. These are all services that are in like the $10 to $20 a month range for what they're offering. And let's just use $10 a month for a quick example. It's like, well, if you're giving Apple three of those $10, that's a pretty significant cut to your margin. If you think back to like the time when you were with bump boxes, could you imagine if you had to take a 30% margin hit to be on a platform to sell your product? Where a lot of your business was direct and you could direct your marketing spend. In these cases, these companies still have to market, Todoist or TaskRabbit or Evernote or all these guys, they still have to market and get people there. And then on top of that, they have these costs that make it difficult to sell subscriptions as a service through the Apples and the Googles of the world. And I think my takeaway from this is that after 5 years of fighting, Epic seems to have made a little bit of progress in being able to offer something elsewhere, but it was like 6 or 7 minutes of my son asked for his password and then he logged in and then okay, well now I need, Daddy, now I need your credit card. Like there were all these steps, whereas if he had just bought it in app, it was 2 clicks. And I think from a dollars and cents standpoint, if it was going to save me $100, would I go to a website to save the $100? I'd like to think I would, but on most of these things, like, when my son's buying V-Bucks, he's buying $10 worth of V-Bucks. So I can save $2 if I like get up and go give my son my credit card and log into a different website. Like there's a lot of friction there. And I think it just speaks to the fact that I think these margins in the app stores are going to be around for a while. And so folks that are building SaaS products that want to have a subscription model are really going to have to contend with these fees if they want people to buy stuff through the big platforms. Because I don't know it's going to be easy to move people off of paying through the platforms just because it's so seamless right now.
I guess I hadn't thought about it that way, but yeah, when you think about the friction that you just described, I wonder if it'll kind of like give rise to some new customer acquisition tactics. So, and I'm going to totally make this up, right? But that initial friction you just described, save $2 by just getting up and walking across the room versus just hitting the button. This concept, like from a 50,000 foot view, this concept has been sort of already worked out in the consumer world. In the e-commerce world. So for example, a lot of e-commerce companies will try to get you to buy your first thing from them, but it'll have a heavy discount on it because they just want you to buy the first one, and try it. Or they just want to make it like they just want to get a little bit of that friction out of the way. Hey, 50% off your first purchase or whatever it might be. But the really what then happens, as you probably have experienced, is that then now you're in the marketing funnel and now you're getting hit up for more and purchasing second and third time is just as easy as like clicking the button now,
right?
Technically from your email browser. So now I wonder, let's just say you did do that. Let's just say, yesterday you were sitting there. Let's just say you were like, you know what? I'm going to save the $2. I'm going to go do it on the computer. Well, now your son's playing the game, and as those V-Bucks get used, you get an email alert that might say something like, click here to reload, $25. They just reduced now that friction might be a lot less because you don't have to actually walk across the room or whatever. I'm making this up, but my point is that concept you just talked about, that initial friction of the first purchase. I wonder if this will kind of like give rise to some new tactics that either we have seen before in other industries and now are going to get applied to video games, or something new entirely. That'll be interesting to watch, actually.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, well, I think that's probably a good place to pin it for this week. I'm sad to hear you're a little tired from your flight to Salt Lake City. I have faith you'll recover, Mr. Singh. I have faith.
Well, as I sit here in my throne at my wonderful desk, I'm not going to let today go to waste.
No, do not flush the rest of the day your way. I want you to stay focused on the movements ahead. All right, Mr. Singh.
I don't even know where to go with that. See you later.